I'm Justin.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Ed. And we are the Glitch Mob.
And now we're going to show you some tips on Neutron 2 and Ozone 8. And one of the things we really like about Neutron 2 is the undo history. It's great when you're tweaking a sound and you want to revert back to the way that it originally was. This undo history has a really cool feature that allows you to bookmark 4 specific spots in time. This is great when you want to try out a few different ideas, but you want the flexibility to change your mind. Right now, we're going to apply EQ, compression, and an exciter to this lead track. For the sake of demonstration, we're going to use some extreme settings so that you can tell the difference between the bookmarks. By clicking Set above the A slot, we can save that state of Neutron as a bookmark. Now we're going to completely change the EQ, compression, and exciter settings, and we're even going to reorder the signal path and then click Set for the B slot. We're going to do this again with completely different settings and engage the transient shaper and click Set for the C slot. Now we can switch between A, B, and C and easily compare results to see what sounds best. As you can see, Neutron's undo history not only remembers the settings of each processor, but it also remembers which processor was engaged and what order they were placed in.
So right now, we're going to show you how we use Ozone Maximizer. Now, most of the time, we send our tunes off to get professionally mastered, but sometimes it's actually necessary to do some self-mastering. A perfect example is, let's say you have a gig and you want to test your tunes out that night on a sound system. It's actually much more efficient and cost-effective to do a little self-mastering yourself first, try out some new things, be able to hear what's working and what's not, and then make some final judgment calls, and then send the final product to get professionally mastered by a real mastering engineer. It's important to mix through Ozone Maximizer and not just slap it on at the last minute when you're ready to bounce your tune. This is going to ensure that all of your mix decisions are made with the maximizer in mind and your tune doesn't end up sounding different than intended. One new feature in Ozone Maximizer is the IRC LL limiting algorithm. The LL stands for low latency. And if you use Ozone in the past, you know that it was practically impossible to play virtual instruments on time with Ozone engaged. Well, with the IRC LL algorithm, the latency is now extremely low, and the CPU hit is significantly less than any of the IRC4 algorithms. What we suggest is to mix your song through IRC LL, and when you're ready to bounce the tune, switch to IRC4 transient. This is actually the algorithm that we use and we like the most, but use the one that suits your tune.
Here's a song from our upcoming album. We started with the threshold at -15, and we have mixed our song through this. With the threshold dropped so low, we ensure that there is always plenty of headroom and the signal will never be clipping before it hits Ozone 8. We set the ceiling at -0.3, the character to 1.0 fast, and the transient emphasizer to 100. For the limiting algorithm, we're going to use IRC LL while we're still working on the song, and when it's ready to bounce, we'll switch it over to IRC4 transient. Right now, this song is about -7.5 LUFS in the loudest part of the hook. To us, that feels like a solid loudness that's acceptable to play back on sound systems, but always use your best judgment. By using these same settings every time, we set a standard workflow for ourselves that is consistent over the entire album. And when the album is done and ready for mastering, it's easy for us to convey these settings to the mastering engineer so he can replicate our reference masters as needed.